In 1942, the Japanese secret weapon, Project Z. Japan's equivalent to the America bomber was born out of similar frustrations. How was the flight to be taken to their enemies? The United States had been severely jolted by the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. From that time on, though, the element of surprise was gone. Americans threw themselves into a war effort which, by sheer scale and productivity, looked like overwhelming the Japanese in the long run. How were they to be put off their stride again? Like the Germans, the Japanese concluded that they needed a long-range bomber capable of attacking targets in the continental United States. Such a weapon would also enable them to assist their German allies by attacking mines and industrial installations located in the Soviet Far East. As the Germans had found, the technical challenges were daunting, but the Nakajima Corporation was not daunted. Himself a naval engineer, founder Chikuhei Nakajima took personal charge, apparently reveling in the difficulties. So big a bomber would require 6 engines, he calculated. Its range would have to be at least 8,450 kilometers or 5,250 miles, with a payload of 22 450 kilogram or 1,000-pound bombs. Even at over 11,580 meters or 38,000 feet out of reach of ground fire, the Z-plane would be an obvious target for enemy fighters. It would need to have sufficient pace to outrun them. Nakajima acknowledged his doubts that the materials were available to allow such exacting specifications to be met, but he was irrepressible in his enthusiasm for the Project Z. All at sea. As the Pacific War intensified indeed, he started to see the Z-bomber as the secret weapon that would, pretty much by itself, bring about the defeat of the US fleet. So big a target, said his detractors, would surely be vulnerable to anti-aircraft fire from the surface, especially when descending to the lower altitudes needed to stand a chance of hitting ships. No problem, Nakajima explained. The Z-bomber would deal with any personnel attempting to shoot it down by making a preliminary strafing attack before its bombing run, using the machine gun mounted in its wings. Of these, there were not 2, not 4, not 40, but 400, set in rows and tiers no more than 250 millimeters or 9.8 inches apart. Since, said Nakajima, this 250mm distance is less than the size of a man's body, either standing or lying down, at least 1 bullet would be able to hit each man on the decks of enemy carriers or even on the enemy's anti-aircraft guns. With a formation of 15 Z-planes, an area some 45 meters or 150 feet wide and 10 kilometers or 6 miles long would be showered with bullets, catching at least 20 enemy ships and up to 40. We talk lightly of a hail of bullets, but enemy seamen, it appeared, were going to find out exactly what this would be like. In the end, as time went on, the tide of battle turned and a mood of grim realism descended on the Japanese military establishment. Project Z seemed more and more a fantasy, Nakajima's folly.